Fabulous. So yeah, for you in this evening, we'll be kind of getting open into the shoulders a little bit. We'll add an inversion in pajama, and into hips and inner thighs a little. So to start with, we're going to grab the cushion, bring that under the shoulder blades or the kind of mid back. So your bum is on the floor, the shoulder blades drop over it, and the head leans back behind it. Now, if this doesn't feel good for your neck, of course you're welcome to do this without your cushion, or just adjust it to somewhere else. But just getting open into the shoulders is just a nice comfortable way to find a little bit of space around the chest. So from here, bring the arms either out to the sides of you or into a cactus position, just to deepen that opening a little bit further. Legs can either stay bent with feet to the floor, just let the knees rest onto each other. Or for those of you that are a little bit more mobile and want to get straight into some deeper stretching, bring the soles of the feet together and let the knees just flop out to the sides. So wherever you come to, just start to find the breath going through the nose. Allow it to reach into that more open space around the chest. Feeling the expansion of the rib cage with each inhale. And each time you exhale, just allow the body to soften. Just surrender into the opening of the heart space. Allow there to be that gentle pause between the inhale and the exhale. You drop into that more meditative breath. A kind of correct pace of a meditation breath would be about 6 or 7 rounds of breath per minute. So nice and slow. Just becoming aware of your body in a physical state, just noticing sensations of the body, noticing any feedback that your body's giving you already, of things maybe you just want to take care of. Those of you that are in the practice this evening on live, then you know some modifications or just different postures. If you want to change up completely whatever I'm offering you, then change. Using this practice to give yourself the time to stretch, to release, and to breathe that little bit slower. Perhaps you can observe any feedback from more of an emotional sense. How are you feeling? How would you like to feel? Take a really deep, full breath in. And a really deep, full breath out. Take your time, moving slowly. Just bring yourself over to one side. So you roll onto the side of your body. And just slide that cushion out from underneath you. And come back onto your back again with the knees in towards your chest. Just hugging them in nice and close. So you get a little bit of compression through the abdomen. So like you're pressing the thighs into the belly. Take a gentle rock from side to side, so you massage your spine into the floor. And then keep the legs where they are. Just bring the arms either back out long or back into a cactus position again. Notice if it feels a little bit easier than perhaps normally when you're first kind of opening into that cactus. Allow both knees to drop over towards the right and bring yourself into any kind of twist that feels enough for your back. So nothing that feels too strained or something that you have to force your way to hold. Something that allows you to drop into and find that slow, full feeling through the breath. You can rest a hand on the upper thigh if that helps, just to anchor them down slightly, or find the crossing of the legs, more of the eagle wrapping, anywhere that feels good. Try to keep the left shoulder towards the ground at least, thinking that left shoulder blade sliding down the back of the ribs. Allow the head to turn to the left if it hasn't already. And as you breathe, try to feel that spiral of the spine lengthening and softening with the breath. Last couple of breaths here. Using your next exhale, draw the belly to spine, bring the legs through the center. If you'd cross them into that eagle wrap, then uncross them on your way up. And then taking the twist to the other side, you can have a little wriggle in the middle if you need to just soften the back out first, and then drop the knees to the left. And again, any kind of variation of the twist that feels good. Aiming to draw that right shoulder to the floor, sliding that shoulder blade down the back of the ribs so the chest feels open to the ceiling. If the neck feels good, then allow the head to turn to the right. So you've got that spiral running right from the tailbone through to the back of the skull. You're bringing out a little bit of space down those energy channels that run through the spine, your nadis. See if you can feel how the breath affects the movement of the spine in a very subtle sensation. Noticing after a few breaths how the breath affects the depth of the pose in a very real sensation. Last couple of breaths here. Gently bringing the legs back up to the center. Again, untangle the legs or just give the knees a gentle rock from side to side. And then hug the legs back in towards the body again, like exactly the same as you're squashing the thighs against the abdomen. We're going to find a hamstring stretch with the right leg. So entirely up to you. You can use the hands around the back of the thigh or place the foot into a strap. For those of you that are a little bit more loose through the hamstring, you can connect the right peace fingers to the big toe. So you find the toe bind and use the hand to kind of lengthen the leg out from there. Likewise, entirely up to you with the left leg. That can stay bent with the foot to the floor, or lengthen out straight in front of you, or somewhere in between, so there's a soft bend in the knee. Wherever gives you the best feedback. Keeping that foot lightly flexed. Remembering if there's too intense at the back of the knee, try taking more of a bend into the knee and think thigh towards the rib cage. Then begin to push up the leg from there. From here, keep that right side of the pelvis on the ground. Just shift the leg across towards the left slightly. Ankle towards left shoulder. Keep the right side of your pelvis pressing down into the floor. And at the same time, push up into the foot. So try to reach the ball of the foot towards the ceiling. Bring the leg back to the center. So if you're using the strap, release the strap. You're going to bring this leg into a half happy baby. So bend the knee towards the armpits and your hand grabs hold of the shoelace bit of the foot to pull it down. The elbow is on the inside of the knee. So use that elbow to press the knee open and use the fingers to pull the feet down. So your ankle is stacked above the knee and the knee is now towards maybe the outer shoulder. Thigh is towards the outer side of the rib cage. If your left leg is bent, try now walking it a little bit further away or fully straightening it if you can. From here, we're going to come into like a revolved pigeon pose. So your left hand is going to catch hold of the sole of the foot. The right hand is with the knee. Push the knee away, ankle towards you. Flex the foot. And then press the sole of the foot over towards the left a little bit more. So your knee is almost stacking above the heart center. So really tempting for this heel to tuck in towards the leg. Try to keep the shin upright, so the shin is parallel with the line of the floor rather than the foot dropping down towards it. Again, keep the pelvis rooting into the floor, so you haven't rolled over to one side. Those of you that are more anatomy nerds, it should be feeling this more into the piriformis, that kind of hip socket. Take a full breath. Slowly bring the leg center. Sole of the foot comes to the ground, and then just let the knee flop out to more of a tree pose. You can pat the cushion underneath that knee if it needs a little bit of support. Bring the arms towards the ceiling, grab hold of alternate forearms and bring the arms back behind your head. Long full breaths, finding that meditative pace of the breath again. Noticing maybe a sense of circulation or warmth or tingling around that right hip. Compressed it and stretched it and opened it already. Take a full breath in. As you exhale, lift that knee back up towards the ceiling so the foot is on the floor. And then slowly bring that left leg in towards your chest. So we begin with a hamstring stretch on this left leg. So if you want to wrap the strap around the ball of the foot and lift the heel up from there, you can do. Or hands around the back of the thigh, or hands grab hold of the big toes. If you're taking the big toe, it'll be your left piece fingers to grab the foot and the elbow on the inside of the knee. And then you start lengthening the foot up. Your right leg can stay bent or out straight or somewhere in between. See where gives you best feedback. Again, play around with maybe taking a little more bend into the left knee and think thigh towards the rib cage. Maybe curl the big toe back. Nudge it around until you get a good stretch. Somewhere you can still breathe. Stretch isn't feeling too forced or stingy. Last couple of breaths, so maybe you can deepen into it just these last couple. From there, we just shift the ankle towards the right shoulder a little bit. So keep the left side of the pelvis on the floor. Just let the leg drop over towards the right slightly. Keep that left side of the pelvis pressing down and the foot reaching up. Maybe finding more into that IT band, more to the outer side of the thigh. If you're still feeling it more on the hamstring or around the back of the knee still, that's fine too. Last couple of breaths. From here, we bring into the half happy baby. So let the leg draw open, bend the knee, so the knee comes towards the armpit. Take the hand to hold onto the shoelace bit of the foot and grab hold of the little toe edge. Draw the knee down towards the outer side of the shoulder. And the sole of the foot flexed up to ceiling. So ankle is stacked above the knee. If the right leg is still bent, try to lengthen it a little bit further away, if not all the way out straight. Lift the sole of the foot towards the ceiling. Yeah, good. From here, we come into that reclined pigeon again. So use the right hand with the sole of the foot, the left hand on the knee. Turn the leg so the shin is kind of in line with the shoulders. And then push the foot over to the right so the knee is over the heart center. Again, just notice this heel is probably going to want to fold in towards your hip because it feels much easier there. But try to keep the foot lifted so shin is parallel with the floor. Reaching that foot over to the right. You can straighten the angle of the knee a little bit if that gives you a better stretch. Try to keep that left side of the pelvis on the ground. Foot is slightly flexed. Take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, bring the leg back through to the center. Allow the foot to find the floor, and we come into that reclined tree pose. So just let the knee drop out. You can have the cushion under the knee if that's more comfortable. And again, bring the arms back behind the head so the chest space and the ribs feel open. Full, slow breath, just allowing the whole body to open out into softness. Again, just observing the circulation through that hip or inner thigh, foot. Notice where you feel the effects of it. Take a breath in. As you exhale, belly to spine, lift the knee up to face the ceiling. And then bring the right foot to the floor, the arms out to the sides. Just give the body a little rock side to side with the knees. Then roll yourself all the way over to one side. So just rolling to lie down on the side of your body, either way. From there, just keep turning yourself over so you roll onto your belly, like you're lying in bed and you're just having a bit of a fidget round. Bring the hands underneath the forehead, the elbows wide, and just allow the head to rest onto the hands. Bring the hands underneath your shoulders. Take a big breath in. As you exhale, come through an all fours position and fold the hips back to your heels into a child's pose. Take the knees a little bit wider than your body is. Big toes are touching, and reach the arms out in front of you. Really try to get the sit bones towards your heels. From here, we're going to bring in the prayer hook of the arms as an option. So if it feels enough for the shoulders to keep the arms out straight, then you can stay where you are. Try bringing the palms of the hands together and then hooking the hands behind the back of the neck. Keep the arms close in towards your head. So your arms are kind of pressing in towards the temples. Then walk the elbows forwards and think armpits pulling back to the floor. Lengthen the arms out in front of you. Come into all fours. Tuck the knees back underneath your hips. If the shoulders are feeling pretty tight, grab your cushion again. It's going to act as a little pillow for your head or your block if you have one. Reach the arms out in front of you, dropping into puppy. So forehead resting to the ground or your cushion or your block. Think tailbone tipping up towards the ceiling. So to deepen in, try taking the hands and the shoulders further forwards and thinking chest sinking to the floor. Those of you that are more open, you can bring a cushion underneath your chest space, kind of let yourself drop into something a little bit more. Another option to deepen here is to bring those prayer arms back into it again. So you need to lift yourself up a little bit to get the elbows down first. Then thread the head back through with the arms tucking around. And sometimes just because you can doesn't mean that you need to this evening. So go wherever feels best. Taking 3 more full breaths. So try to breathe into the ribs. As you exhale, think armpits coming towards the floor. 2 more breaths. Last breath. Push into the elbows so the head starts to lift. Bring the hands back to the floor and come back into all fours. Round your back through a cat stretch. So gaze comes towards the knees. Push through the hands, holding here. And slightly rock it forwards and backwards or side to side a little bit if that helps you open out into the ribs a little bit more. Really try to tuck the chin in towards the chest so the back of your neck lengthens. Sit back towards the heels with the toes tucked under. So we come into this toe squat stretch. Those of you with any knee trickiness going on, then you can put a cushion between the calf muscles and the thighs just to decompress that folding of the knees. From here, we're going to bring the eagle wrap of the arms in. So reach the arms out in front of you, wrapping the right arm over the left. Either you hold on to shoulders and reach the elbows forwards if that feels enough, or bring the backs of the hands together and cross them again if you can. Lift the elbows forwards and up. So wherever you are, you're aiming to just get the shoulder blades to broaden out. Think chest pulling back towards the back of the ribs. So you really open out that space. Allow the head to soften forwards towards the forearms. Breathing to physically feel the breath move into the back ribs. If it gets too strong in the feet, I want you to try and keep the toes tucked, but you can lift higher into a higher kneeling position. So you just take some weight off the toes if you need to. For as much as you can, use the breath to really deepen in, get angry through the breath if you need to. The lion's breaths or fluttering of the lips. On your next inhale, unravel the arms, lift up into higher kneeling, sweep the arms up above the head. Sit back down to the heels, cross the left arm over the right. And again, you're either holding onto shoulders or wrap the hands again, so back of the hands towards each other and catch fingers to palms. Reach your elbows forwards and then up. Open out the back ribs. Allow the head to soften forwards and pull the chest in towards the back of the ribs. You're arching through the upper spine. Big full breaths. Move the breath into the back. Feeling pretty strong in the feet or the shins or the shoulders. Deepen your breath. Sigh through the mouth. Stick the tongue out. Last full breath. Inhale, lift up onto the knees, unravel the arms, take the hands to the ceiling. Give the feet a flatten to the ground. And then tuck them back under again. We're not going to take the weight onto them, but just sit back so you can grab hold of the heels. You can place a cushion against the floor in front of you if you want to, so the head can land onto something. So keeping hold of your feet, round the shoulders forward, so back of the shoulder blade is open again. Lift up your hips so the arms straighten and bring the crown of the head towards the floor. The head may or may not touch the ground. Again, you can have that cushion under the head just to kind of let your weight drop into it a little bit. So again, finding that space around the shoulder blades and the back of the ribs. Feel the breath move into it. We're just holding here for a couple more breaths. Use the hands on the heels to pull yourself back up to kneeling again and roll the shoulders down your back. Bring the hands out in front of you. We're going to come through a downward dog. If you prefer to just stay in all fours, then you can stay in all fours, or a child's pose again if you want to. We're just going to take 5 breaths into downward dog, just to tick the box of another inversion and get the stretch through the legs. So use that opening of the chest that we found in that child's pose and puppy to push the floor away and get the chest to press through the arms towards the legs. So usually I go on about wrapping the shoulder blades, but on this one, I want you to just get as much press through as feels good. You can bend the knees a little or straighten the legs or paddle the feet. Take about another 3 full breaths. Again, maybe sighing through the mouth, finding that lion's breath, as much release from the pose as you can get. Bring your left leg forwards into pigeon. Good, that's it. Send the back leg away. And then fold the forearms to the ground, let the head sink down. Again, you can either place the cushion there or the hands under your head as a pillow. If you know pigeon isn't good for your knee, you can take this onto your back into figure of 4. That's more comfortable. If you need me to give you any modifications, feel free to unmute yourself or anything, let me know. The last couple of breaths here, if you want to deepen in a little bit further, then try shimmying the underneath foot forwards a little bit. Find the point where it feels deeper in the hip, but doesn't bite into your knee if you've deepened in. Last full breath. So bring yourself back upright, sit down onto the left thigh and spin yourself open into a wide leg straddle. So if you're now turned away from the camera, just spin yourself around so you all can see it. it all makes sense. We'll go round in little circles. You're in both legs open into straddle. Sit boner, so you can set yourself up into there. Just keep facing the camera. That's it. So if you want to be sat onto cushions or blocks or anything, then you can pop yourself up on anything higher. You're going to bring your right hand onto the left thigh, left hand lifting up to the ceiling, taking a big breath in. As you exhale, lean over towards the right leg. So use this right hand to keep the leg pushing down and away from you. If it starts to become too heavy in the top arm, you can bend the elbows, the fingers find the back of the head, and you can use the hand to really support the weight of your head. Those of you that feel more open to be sat here, rather than that right hand resting on the left thigh, take the back of the right hand to the inside of your left leg. That'll help you spin the chest towards the ceiling a little bit further. And one of those poses, you can just adjust where your arms are, just to help you get a more comfortable feeling into it, so you're not having to strain or hold it too much. Really strong one for that lower left back. Take a big breath in. As you exhale, slowly roll forwards, so both hands come out in front of you. Allowing the body to fold into the legs. Let the head hang into it. Just taking one full breath here. Roll yourself up through the center. Taking that side reach to the other side. So start with the left hand on the right thigh and the right hand lifting up to the ceiling. Exhale to lean over towards the left leg. So again, use this left hand to keep that right thigh pushing down and away from you to help you press over to the side. If the arm gets heavy, then bend the elbows. You hold on to underneath the head, like supporting a baby's head. You use the point of your elbow then to guide you over. Those of you that are more open through the hamstrings and the fold here, take the back of the left hand to the inside of the right leg. Press it in so that your chest really lifts towards the ceiling. Grab the inside of the foot if that's in reach. Lightly flex the feet if they aren't already, so toes and knees are in line with the ceiling. Take a full breath in. As you exhale, roll forwards, finding the fold between the legs. So if sat upright in this fold is really uncomfortable for your back, you can roll onto your back and let the legs drop open. So I'll just show you that you want to take the variation, holding on underneath the legs. Just let the weight of the legs drop into it rather than your back having to force it. And take about another 5 breaths here, so wherever you want to be. Last couple of breaths. Lift yourself gently upright. So if you're in straddle, you're just going to turn towards your right leg. So we come into pigeon with right leg forwards and send the left leg back. See if you're on your back, and then roll yourself back over. So right leg is forwards in pigeon. Forearms to the ground, let your head fold in. You want to use a cushion under the head or under that right thigh. Use your props as you need to. Last couple of breaths here. So again, if you want to show me that underneath foot forwards a nudge, then take that deeper option. Again, just make sure you're finding that biting point where it's not biting into the knee. And last full breath. Slowly bringing yourself upright. Allow yourself to drop over onto that right thigh. And again, spin yourself round to face the front. Bring the soles of your feet together, knees open, into that sort of longer Baddha Konasana shape. So this, these two palms can fit between heel and groin. Take hold of the ankles, lifting up tall as you inhale. And as you exhale, bow forward so you bring the forehead down towards the ankles. So here, some of you, maybe the head rests onto the feet. If you have a little gap, you can either stack the fists or place a block onto your heels or a cushion onto the heels to support the head. So your neck can completely relax into it. For those of you that have the head resting into the feet, thread the arms underneath your ankles, arms to the floor or holding onto the feet, and tuck yourself in. So Sarah, bring the arms under the calf muscles, so that way under. Yeah, and then you can use that to pull yourself forwards and down. Three more full breaths. Slowly start to unravel your arms and press yourself up straight. Lift the knees to the ceiling, lengthen the legs out straight from mo, give your hips a little bit of a wiggle, lean back into the hands, give your back a bit of a nudge. So from here, we're going to come into a double pigeon or a shin stack. Chris might give you a different variation if you're not going to be happy with this in your hip, okay? So I'll start you off to start with. So we're going to bring the left leg underneath. So the shin is parallel with the line of your mat. Stack the right ankle on top of the left knee. So it's different with your ankle bone on top of the knee rather than your foot on top of the knee is much easier. I want you to get the foot over, so it's ankle bone above the knee. So bird's eye view down at your legs would see a perfect triangle, the shins completely stacked. So just be aware that underneath heel is going to want to tuck in. So it's really normal for this top knee to be floating. So you can pad that out if it feels uncomfortable, place a cushion or a block there. It will drop open after a few breaths. So give it time. If it feels okay there, then let it have a bit of time. Flex the feet, hold onto the knee and the foot and lift up tall through the spine. From here, over the few breaths, bring yourself forwards into it. Those of you that are more open, bring the forearms to the ground so your arms act as a framework for your feet. So here, your right forearm will be against the sole of the underneath foot and your left bicep against the sole of the top foot. So they frame the foot into that flexed shape. If hips aren't happy or knees aren't happy with this one, then come into Paschimottanasana and work with the hamstrings so the legs are straight, folding over from there. Using a strap or anything if that feels better. Again, just choosing a pose that feels right for you. Try to send the tailbone back, so you lengthen or straighten up the spine into it. Another pretty intense pose, so deepen into your exhalations, find some release through the breath. Have another couple of breaths to go, so if you need to ease out of it a little bit, then ease out of it a little bit. If you want to ease into it a little bit deeper, bring the arms over towards the left, so you twist in. So you have either the right forearm against the sole of that top foot, and to deepen in fully, then the right tricep, so upper arm in the sole of the foot, and you bring the hands to prayer. It's a strong pose. Last full round of breath. Gently unravel, take your time. Stretch the legs out in front of you. Give the feet a little wobble in and out a couple of times. Get that rolling through the thighs, through the hips. Let the hands rest back behind you. Give your back a bit of a stretch. And then we start with the other side. So the right foot is on the ground, shin parallel to the front of the mat. The left leg is on top with the ankle bones stacked above the knee. So again, keep the foot over, so the heel of the foot is beyond the thigh. If the foot is tucked in, it's going to really ease out of that piriformis where we want to stretch into. So again, wriggle that front heel forwards if it's tucked in towards your bum. Hold on to the foot and the knee, pad out that underneath the knee if you need to, and lift up tall through the spine. It might be enough just to stay upright in this. So it's a quite intense posture. Again, if this isn't feeling good for knee or hip this side, then work on both legs straight and just forward fold, lengthen into hamstrings. Those of you that are ready to go deeper, begin to fold into it. So the breastbone comes towards the top shin, keeping the feet flexed. So it's generally going to be better alignment from the knees. Those of you that can bring the forearms to the floor, use the arms to frame the feet. So Bernard, bring your arms to the outer side of the legs. That's it, perfect. So the left forearm against the sole of the underneath foot and the right bicep against the sole of the top foot. That keeps the feet flexed. Deepen into the breath. We have another couple of breaths to go. So again, if you need to ease out of it a little bit or deepen into it, if you're going deeper, you bring the arms over to the right. So maybe the left forearm rests to the thigh. And the full expression, you bring the tricep into the sole of the foot and the palms stack. So reach that right elbow towards the ceiling. Good, Chris, nice. Last full round of breath. Gently start to untangle the shoulders, untangle the legs out in front of you, stretch them out. Again, lean back into the hands, let the back have a wriggle, the legs have a wriggle. And then we're finding this Paschimottanasana fold. So just let the legs reach out, the body fold over wherever it falls to. If you want to be sat onto a cushion or a block, if that helps the lower back release, and let yourself be sat onto something. Use a strap if that's more comfortable. Have about a minute here, so get into a place that you can hold. If you're taking care of lower backs, then take a little bend into the knees or put your cushion under the knees. Really try to relax the back of the neck, let the head hang in, so you get the neck stretched into this again. Last couple of breaths. And slowly begin to unravel yourself. Move gently, take your time. Good. And bring the feet to the floor, just give the knees a gentle rock side to side. So we're going to finish with more of a restorative inversion again. So we're going to give you a few different levels. I'll start with the lower level first. So you're going to come into a bridge pose and have your cushion underneath the sacrum, just so your hips are a little bit elevated and comfortable on this cushion. Next option, you bring a block if you have one, or a couple of books. On that, if you have a block, the longer, thinner edge, just slide under the sacrum, so it's just between the tailbone and your spine. It should feel like that kind of shelf of your back to rest into. And you can just let your weight drop there. For those of you that want to take more of a deeper inversion, come onto the tiptoes or roll through your bridge pose and come onto that higher ledge of the brick if you have one, or a higher prop of whatever you have. So wherever feels enough for your body, whatever your props kind of allow. If you don't have props and you want to work a bit stronger, you can take the higher bridge without props, so you just hold yourself up. Feet up a wall, any inversion that feels comfortable to rest. If you need any modifications, you can unmute or chat. So if you're using the brick, make sure it is in that place that feels really comfortable to drop weight into. So again, as I say, between the tailbone and the spine, the sacrum should feel like that kind of flatter ridge of your back to rest on. If you're resting into a brick, allow that to guide a little bit of tucking of the tailbone or lengthening of the lower back. So drop more weight into your shoulders so the block pushes the tailbone towards the legs. About another 45 seconds here. So if you want to release sooner, then please do. Last couple of breaths. So if you're on a brick, press through the feet, take the brick away from underneath you and take your time to roll the spine back to the floor. If you're on a cushion, you can just stay where you are if you want to, or release it if you'd rather. And then bring yourself into any Shavasana. So maybe you choose the place that we started in with that cushion underneath the shoulders, so you get that little space around the chest opening. Take your legs up a wall if you want to, or just flat into your Shavasana. Cushions under the thighs as an option. Entirely up to you, you decide. Feel into the sensations of your breath. Notice the temperature of the breath. Notice where you feel it move to in the body. It brings a subtle sensation of movement through your spine. Observing the physical effects of the practice on the body. If we look energetically into where we've opened in the practice, a more sort of spiritual or energetic connection to it, around the pelvis and around the hips, that lower chakra point is connected to a lot of your security, a lot of your foundations. Holding tension around the hips can be manifested as a resemblance of fear or insecurity, particularly to do with food or to do with money, those sort of survival factors. Relationships. So if you like to work with that kind of mental connection with that point, and noticing how you feel through the rest of the evening or tomorrow in those kind of more primal areas of life. Space opening around the shoulders and the chest, to do with love and to do with compassion, as you would expect. That can be out towards others or towards yourself. Particularly as opening space around the chest and the lungs enables you to breathe deeper, filling your own cup so that you can serve others. Begin to deepen the breath. Take a full stretch if and when it feels good to do. And using an exhale, bring the thighs to hug in towards your body. Rock side to side. And then gently roll yourself over to one side, either way. take your time, use the hands to support you up to seated. And just resting the hands into the lap with the left hand underneath and the right palm resting into the left palm. As closing your practice, bringing to mind one thing that you can feel grateful for today. Acknowledge something that you're proud of yourself for. And just reminding yourself of those effects of the practice. Setting an intention just to tune in with them again, maybe later or tomorrow. See how you feel. Closing the palms to the heart center. Take a deep, full breath in. And as you exhale, bow your head to your hands. Thank you for joining me. Namaste. Thank you, guys. Well done.
Thanks, Pipsicle.
Thanks, Dem. See you soon, honey.
Thanks for the